So I mean, I kind of listen to the guitar or something like that. So I can't really say, you know, I mean, if somebody plays a great guitar like that,
People who review music and other acts have said that Linda Ronstadt's voice is the most technically perfect in popular music. Thanks to her over 100 million records sold and 11 Grammys, Linda Ronstadt is one of the most successful female artists in music history. But she wasn't just interested in making money. Behind her clear voice and deep eyes was a music purist, who sought out the best artists of her time. She worked with legends, found unknowns, and wasn't afraid to call out fakes in the music business, from her early days with the Stone Ponies to her last shows before Parkinson's disease took away her voice. Linda had very high standards for who she respected and who didn't. She became close with some artists through music while publicly fighting with others who didn't meet her exact standards. Numerous interviews, backstage conversations, and studio stories over the years have finally led us to reveal the 6 artists who earned the respect and love of one of music's most discerning voices. But your fans who come want to hear very often? I even get tired of the music from this century, you know I like to have music from another century right away. These aren't just Linda Ronstadt's biggest hits or most obvious influences, these are the musicians she genuinely admired, learned from, and in some cases fell deeply in love with. Number 1 on this list will shock you. It's an artist most people would never connect to Linda, but their relationship changed both of their lives forever. Neil Young, the godfather of grunge himself, Neil Young, starts our list. This partnership seemed unlikely from the start. Music. Neil was the rock star who changed styles with every album, and Linda was the perfectionist who spent months making sure the vocal arrangements were right. But sometimes the most beautiful music comes from people who are the opposite of each other. Neil is one of the sexiest guys around. They met in the early 1970s when Linda was trying to move beyond her folk rock roots. She heard Neil's song, Heart of Gold, and was struck by his raw vulnerability, which she felt was missing from a lot of the polished California rock scene. Producer Elliot Mayer, who worked with both artists, saw their first studio meeting and said that Neil was skeptical of Linda's pop success and wondered if she had the authenticity for serious rock music. Linda, never one to back down, responded with a stripped-down version of Love is a Rose that left Neil speechless. Linda loved Neil because he didn't care about what other artists wanted to do, while other artists chased radio hits. Neil went with his artistic instincts, even when they led him into experimental ground. Session musicians who worked with them said that Linda's unpredictable vocal delivery was pushed by Neil's unpredictable guitar playing. Their collaborations were not regular, but the times they did work together were always meaningful. Neil's rough guitar textures went well with Linda's smooth vocals. Sound engineer Tim Mulligan remembered sessions where Linda would spend hours studying Neil's phrasing, trying to incorporate his casual style into her own more formal style. They respected each other. Neil once told Rolling Stone that Linda was one of the few singers who could make any song sound like it mattered. That was high praise coming from Neil, who is known for being brutally honest. Certainly 5 Emmylou Harris. At number 5, we have the person who became Linda's closest singing friend. Emmylou Harris. When these two excellent singers worked with Dolly Parton on the Trio project, they made one of the most praised groups in the history of country music. Linda and Emmy met for the first time while recording Emmy's 1975 album Elite Hotel. Linda was brought in to sing background vocals, but their voices blended so well that producer Brian Ahern kept adding more harmony parts. By the end of the session, what was supposed to be just background vocals had turned into a full partnership. Emmy's deep understanding of traditional music was what drew Linda to her, while Linda was known for being very good at the details. Emmy knew a lot about folk and country customs. Musicians who worked with both Emmy and both said that she would come to sessions knowing the history of every song, including who wrote it, who recorded it first, and what it meant in its original setting. Their trio sessions were legendary for how carefully they worked on each song. Engineer George Massenburg wrote that the three women would spend whole afternoons perfecting a single harmony, with Linda often leading the way as musical director. She would separate each voice, listen to the blend, and change the arrangements until they reached what she called harmonic perfection. The relationship between Linda and Emmy was just as important as their musical friendship. People who worked in the music business said that the two would talk about vocal technique for hours, comparing notes on everything from breathing exercises to where to put the microphone. Backup singers who went with them remembered late-night talks where they talked about how singers like Patti Cline and Joni Mitchell used their voices. Linda once told a close friend that Emmy had taught her the difference between being technically correct and being honest from the heart. This can be seen in Linda's later work, where her vocals became more conversational and less structured. For the artist who won Linda's musical admiration and her heart was Jackson Browne, who came in at number 4. Their relationship was one of the most intense and complicated in the music business, combining personal passion with professional cooperation. Music. Jackson was already known as one of the best singer-songwriters of the 1970s when he and Linda met at a troubadour show in 1971. Linda was immediately drawn to his poetic lyrics and emotional honesty, which were different from many of the country rock artists she had been working with at the time. Their relationship started while they were recording Linda's 1974 album Heart Like a Wheel. Producer Peter Asher noticed that Jackson's presence seemed to bring out new emotional depths in Linda's voice. When she sang Jackson's song, I Thought I Was a Child, it became one of her most vulnerable performances. But Jackson also pushed Linda in ways that weren't always comfortable. Musicians who worked with them said they got into heated arguments about artistic direction, with Jackson wanting Linda to be more politically aware in her song choices, while she wanted to focus on pure musical expression. The couple's personal relationship ended badly in 1976, but they still respected each other's music. Linda Jackson recorded Jackson's songs throughout her career, and Jackson often praised her versions as the best. After her time with Jackson, Linda's singing style became less formal and more conversational. Years later, Linda told a reporter that Jackson had taught her that great songs aren't just about perfect notes, they're about perfect emotions. Even after they broke up, Linda still thought Jackson was one of the best songwriters of their generation. Number 3 is the man whose voice made Linda Ronstadt question everything she thought she knew about singing. When Linda and Aaron Neville worked together for the first time in the late 1980s, she wasn't ready for the vocal masterclass she was about to receive. Aaron's falsetto was legendary in R&B circles, but he wasn't well known to mainstream audiences. When Linda discovered his work, she had been exploring different musical styles beyond her rock and country roots. When she heard Aaron's work with the Neville brothers, his ability to convey raw emotion through technical perfection immediately caught her attention. Their first meeting at a New Orleans recording studio was electric producer Daniel Lenoir saw Aaron's initial doubts about working with a pop star change as soon as Linda started to sing. Session musicians said that Aaron's face went from polite interest to genuine amazement as Linda matched his vocal gymnastics note for note. What made their collaboration unique was their mutual respect and musical humility. While Linda was known for being a perfectionist, Aaron brought a more spiritual element to their work. Backing singers who worked on those sessions said that Aaron would talk about singing as a form of prayer, which affected Linda's way of expressing herself emotionally. When they performed together, their duets were displays of pure vocal artistry. They didn't try to overshadow each other. Instead, they made complex vocal conversations that showed off both their technical skills and emotional range. After working with Aaron, Linda's voice became more soulful, according to music critics. Linda once told a music journalist that Aaron taught her the difference between singing perfectly and singing with purpose, and that lesson changed how she sang in every style after that, from mariachi to opera. Number 2. At number 2 is Dolly Parton, who is known as the Rhinestone Queen. People who only know Linda from her rock hits might be surprised by this choice. But when she worked with Dolly, they discovered a deep link to traditional mountain music that ran through both of their careers. Emmylou Harris suggested that Linda and Dolly work together on what would become the trio project. At first, Linda wasn't sure if Dolly was serious about traditional music because she thought she had a pop image. Dolly, on the other hand, was worried that Linda's need to be perfect would clash with her more intuitive approach, but those worries went away during their first recording session. George Massenburg, a director, wrote about how Linda's respect for Dolly grew as she watched her write songs. At the time, Linda was known for her singing abilities. Dolly made up songs from scratch, picking melodies and words that seemed to come from nowhere. Linda loved that, despite her commercial success, Dolly didn't try to be fancy with her music. Dolly stayed close to her Appalachian roots, and she could easily switch from pop production to stripped-down mountain music. Studio musicians who worked with both Linda and Dolly said that Dolly's presence made Linda's usually rigid recording process more relaxed. The trio albums were critical successes, winning Grammys and proving that traditional music could still find modern audiences. But more importantly for Linda, working with Dolly reconnected her to the folk traditions that had first inspired her to sing. Linda once told a close friend that Dolly had taught her that being commercially successful and artistically pure aren't incompatible. This lesson shaped Linda's later career choices, allowing her to feel comfortable exploring mariachi and opera without having to worry about keeping her rock credibility. First, the Nelson Riddle. Our top pick is Linda Ronstadt's work with the famous arranger Nelson Riddle, which was the most shocking and life-changing relationship in her career. This partnership shocked the music industry and showed that Linda's singing skills were great in all kinds of styles. Nelson was already a legend when Linda approached him in 1983. He had put together performances for Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, and Nat King Cole, who defined the sound of American popular music for decades. Linda, on the other hand, was a rock star who wanted to explore the great American songbook, which many people in the music business thought would be the end of her career. Their first meeting wasn't great. Nelson, who was in his 60s at the time, wasn't sure if he wanted to work with a rock singer like Linda because he was afraid she wasn't sophisticated enough for his arrangements. But when they started working together, something magical happened. Music producer Peter Asher saw their early sessions and talked about how Nelson's orchestral arrangements brought out new aspects of Linda's voice. Her rock training had given her power and range, but Nelson taught her subtlety and phrasing. He showed her how to inhabit a song instead of just sing it. The albums that came from this relationship were What's New Lush Life and For Sentimental Reasons were both critical and financial hits that changed Linda's career, but what they really showed was how to work together on music. Nelson pushed Linda to be more polished, and Linda gave Nelson's old arrangements a new bounce. Musicians who worked on those tracks said they admired each other more and more with each recording. Nelson, who had very high standards, rarely gave singers public praise, but he did for Linda, telling her co-workers that she had the best natural voice of any singer I'd ever worked with. Linda once said that Nelson taught her that great music lasts forever and great voices can sing anything. That confidence helped her explore mariachi and opera with the same fearlessness she had brought to rock music. What do you think of Linda's surprising #1 choice? Did Nelson Riddle's impact on her career shock you as much as it did the music world? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and follow for more in-depth looks at the best collaborations in music. Don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to stay updated with our latest stories.